anybody can build anything and deploy it on Fogo. I just like left banking and just started studying as much as I could about crypto. Everybody at the bank said I was making like the biggest mistake. This thing's going to zero. It's a scam. Before liquidity providers came in, real tokens were having like meme coin experiences, like on Coinbase. When people say like meme coins are scam, they're so disorganized. The problem isn't the asset, it's the organization. What if we built better blockchain that thought about these optimizations that already exist in centralized exchanges? Hyperliquid, I give them credit for a lot of things. They took all of the validators and they put them all in Tokyo next to Binance. Everyone says like another L1, another fork. This is just how innovation works. I want everybody to drop everything they're doing and figure out what the opportunity is here. And 2 weeks later, the opportunity is gone. There'll be no second-class citizens on Fogo. Everybody will be on a level playing field to compete.
All right, we're here in Brazil. Why are we here, Robert?
Wow, it's a long story. All right. So I reached out to Clemente on Twitter probably like 4 months ago. And it was off the back of, I think, one of your losses on trading.
It was Pump. I lost a bunch of money on Pump.
And, when we were thinking about the experience we were going to build in trading, we're like, we want this to be inclusive. Like, even the losers can win. And so we thought Clemente would be kind of a good spokesperson for that. So I reached out to him. We started talking. And then that was right before Korean Blockchain Week. So, yeah, we invited you guys down. You came over, I should say. And so, yeah, we had, we had planned this whole, big, event for Korean Blockchain Week. It rained. And we ended up having those Korean dancers, and you got up on stage. Like, a lot of people think that was planned. That was not planned at all.
No.
And it was cool because tons of people saw that. Unfortunately, that was a big top signal. But a lot of people kind of started getting curious about Fogo. So that was, I guess, the start of our relationship. And, yeah, we were really happy with you guys. I think we kind of have the same energy. And so, we're on the verge of a launch here. So wanted to do something in Brazil with some of the team. And you guys were crazy enough to accept my invite and come down.
What I'd want to discuss Fogo specifically, but maybe if we can set it up in terms of just share a little bit about your background and, how you got started in this industry as a whole.
Yeah. So started in foreign exchange trading in banks. And so always kind of building exchanges, building liquidity, working with trading firms like Jump. And always also very disappointed in the amount of inefficiency that happens with fiat currency, hard currency. And so in 2013, one of my FX clients came in and told me about Bitcoin. And this person was somebody everything that they did was ahead of the curve. And they're like, yeah, this Bitcoin, it's gonna get big, and it's gonna be at a point where it'll even be regulated. Even in 2013, he saw this vision. And this firm also got involved in Ripple really early. I remember sitting down with the guy, and he's like, yeah, man. He's like, I got $1 billion of this XRP if it's ever worth anything. We're like, ha, ha, ha. And, obviously it turned out really good for these guys. And so, yeah, they were just early, and I started researching it after you told me about it. And I bought some, and then I got interested in Ethereum. And so I just left banking and FX and just started studying as much as I could about crypto.
Well, when you left banking to go into crypto in what year, 2016,
That was 2016, yeah.
2016, did people, because you were a guy that your whole career was in banking. Did people think you were crazy?
Yeah, everybody. So everybody at the bank said I was making the biggest mistake. This thing's going to zero. It's a scam. Obviously, my family's like, "What are you doing?" But yeah, it was just I was so disappointed with all the inefficiency I saw with FX and fiat that I was like, this is really cool. You don't need permission. You could send this to anybody. This is way faster than a wire if I want to send value to Asia. So it just excited me. And yeah, so I ended up at R3, which has this quarter blockchain. That was when it was blockchain, not Bitcoin kind of thing going on. And it was good because I learned a lot about blockchain engineering and what's an oracle and privacy. and I became the country manager of Brazil. So I actually am not Brazilian, and I just was coming here and I learned Portuguese, and when they needed somebody to like cover Brazil, like I had learned Portuguese, I had some relationships with some of the banks, so I came down here and I was working in country manager for R3, and that's when Jump called me.
And you were in Sao Paulo?
Yeah, so I was going between Sao Paulo and Rio. Actually, the move that everybody does. So I was like working in Sao Paulo, and it's like a big city, but it's not Rio. And like, I would set up meetings with guys, and they would only want to meet between Tuesday and Thursday, and they were like super happy and tanned. And I was like, "What's going on here?" And they're like, "Yeah, actually, we live in Rio. We just commute to Sao Paulo for like Tuesday to Thursday, and we like spend the weekends in Rio." And I'm like, "That's the move." So I moved to Rio. I had a place like on Ipanema Beach, and I started doing that. And then Jump called me up, and they're like, "Hey, you know," because I used to cover Jump for when I was in FX.
And people that are in the industry know Jump, but someone that's not in the industry might not have like the context on Jump. So Jump is
high frequency firm. They trade pretty much every asset. They've got all these like independent teams, like one of the most successful high frequency firms in the world. And they just got into crypto like way earlier than everybody else. They got interested in it. It was kind of like a hobby, and it just got bigger and bigger, and they grew with it. Yeah.
Wait, did you say they ruined
No,
it?
he said they grew with it.
Oh, grew it. I was like, and then they ruined it. And now, now I hate this place.
It's funny you say that. You know how many people I've met? I'm not in crypto, but they're like, I was trading oil and I was making so much money, and Jump all of a sudden started trading it and they ruined it. Like they're like ruined me. Like I couldn't make money anymore. So it's actually funny. But no, they didn't. I don't think they ruined crypto. They actually, I give them credit because they started as traders and they really moved to like builders. Like if you think about it, they're building Fire Dancer, which we're leveraging. They started off building Pyth, like one of the biggest oracles. They were part of like the building of the Wormhole Bridge, which everybody uses. So, and now they have like, they're big on 00, as everybody knows. So they really kind of like pivoted. They were like, there's an opportunity to not only just be traders, but to be like important builders and stakeholders. And like, I think this industry is better off for it if you look at what they have.
Yeah, I mean, well, they were able to reinvest. I mean, they were probably quite successful with the HFT side of things, so they could just invest and expand in building the infrastructure side of things. So did you, you were there at Jump up through how many years?
So yeah, it was like 2017 to 2023. So kind of like when everything happened in crypto.
Yeah.
That's also when COVID happened, which became interesting because like before COVID, you'd have to fly everywhere to like have these meetings. And, Jump became the destination for like liquidity provision for projects. And we had DeFi summer and all these projects were coming up and they needed liquidity providers. Because like before liquidity providers came in, like real tokens were having like meme coin experiences like on Coinbase because there's no LPs. So they would launch them on Coinbase, and like as Coinbase would like told me, they're like grandma would like come in and like buy the top and then would fall off a cliff because like there was no like kind of organization from liquidity provision. So like the centralized exchanges went out and was like, we need to solve this problem because like people are like losing money, like there's no organization in these launches. So they started reaching out to people like Jump and we're like, can you come in and like, I know you guys launch IPOs, it's a similar situation. Can you bring those models into like launching tokens and like bring some organization in these markets? And now like these launches are super organized, like, and you have perps that kind of dampen the volatility. So that's why when people say like meme coins are scam, they're so disorganized. Like I've seen that with like trading tools and efficiency and pros that come in, you can actually like put more organizations to markets. Cause like the issue is in meme coins, like people find value in meme coins. Like Dogecoin is super valuable. Like it's still after all these years, there's still demand for it. And so like the problem isn't the asset, it's the organization. So if you could put like a process in place where like people got in at reasonable levels, you didn't have these crazy like sugar high spikes that like sell off, like the meme coins could like have a real chance. So that's why I don't want to give up on meme coins because like I've seen it's really like a market organization problem more than like a specific asset issue.
Can you explain what that even means? Because you said one of the effects of market organization sounds like bringing a little more stability dampens the volatility associated with this. Why is that? Like, is it because there's now there's trading ranges that they're setting the bid ask, like because people are market making it? Like,
It's open to manipulation. So like people can manipulate the markets, and there's not like pros standing in there with like these circuit breaker liquidity that doesn't allow the market to like get out of hand such that it's just gonna fall off a cliff. And then if you did like a fair auction in the beginning, so you let people come in, like they get an initial price that's like fair, and it's not like this rush, like then that's the other thing, like we're seeing a lot of like new launch pads are doing these like auctions, and there's some games that can be played, but like, you know, those will only get like better. But if you do that and people got in like at fair prices and didn't get like some crazy, you know, top blast, then like now we have a chance. And then if the meme coin is motivated to like make it useful, like now Dogecoin can be used for like payments that started out as like a meme. So if there's this track where like a meme coin can become useful and have utility and people can use it for payments, then, you know, like now this is like it's like a real crypto native thing that is like, that occurred, like that we kind of created, and we kind of take over the mainstream. So like, no, I don't want to give up on meme coins yet. I think we can, you know, like make them better, and yeah, I know. I think like any token that like battle tests all of our solutions is like a net positive, because that's just gonna mean like when MasterCard comes in, they're like, oh yeah, like this meme coin's trading 20K TPS, like, you know, our payments can work here, and now like we have a shot.
So how do you envision like Fogo fitting into that, and like what brought you to, because you're on the market making, you're helping structure these markets is what you're doing before. Where did like Fogo come from?
Yeah, so we tried to trade on on-chain clubs, and we just got
on-chain clubs.
Yeah, central limit order book. So, so you know, every centralized exchange runs like a central limit order book, which is just like traders are putting in orders
their own
and
internal
matching.
order book, basically.
Yeah.
It's not coming from another place. I don't know if Hyperliquid, does Hyperliquid have their own, or are they using?
Yeah, so they do. It's closed source, so you don't know much about it.
Got it.
We will be open source, by the way. But yeah, so every centralized exchange runs like a matching engine. It's a central limit order book, and you know, trades match. And so the idea is like, hey, if we can, and you know, that's developed over decades. So all the rules that happen, like cancel priority, like these are like all positive things that like traders are used to. And so you want to create like an environment that traders are used to, because like when you go to like somebody like Jump or Citadel and you want them to connect to your blockchain, if it's like so different than what they're used to, like it's very disruptive. They've like optimized their models for a certain environment, and now you're like, hey, yeah, it's not first in, first out orders. Actually, your orders like are prioritized by how much you want to pay, and there's an auction. It's like, what the fuck? Like, I don't want to deal with that. Like, I'm busy, you know, like I like connect me to something that looks like CME, you know? And so that was like always our goal. And it's harder to do in a decentralized environment.
CME being Chicago Mercantile Exchange?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's, you know, where all the futures are traded, or NASDAQ. They're all the same. And even like Binance, it's a matching engine with 5 millisecond latency. Like, it's very familiar to traders. They can colo in Tokyo next to it. And that's why like Binance has all the liquidity, because it's, and there, you know, there's like KYC and geo blocking, so they can get comfortable. So that was always the idea, is like, can we replicate the familiar environment on chain? And because when we tried to trade on chain, we just got like, we got arbed, because like we couldn't update our orders fast enough. We didn't have cancel priority, meaning like we want to cancel the order, but somebody else came in and filled it, even though it was like an off market price, and now we lost money. And so it's like, it's very different, slow environment that like we just had a disadvantage. And so I was like, what if we built a better blockchain that thought about these optimizations that already exist in centralized exchanges. And it's familiar to like real traders.
When you said you have a question, but when you said we, who was we? Was that at Jump or like, because you said we were trying to trade on chain?
Yeah.
That was it.
That was a Jump, yeah.
So,
and if you look like Keone from Monad, he was there too. And he experienced the same issues. And he went off and started his own L1 that addresses the issues with Ethereum in terms of performance, right, and scalability. So I guess I wasn't unique in seeing like there's a gap here, and these current blockchains don't really work for trading. Mm-hmm. And like if you think about the evolution of these blockchains, it started as Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. Everyone's like, cool, we got this coin that we can like transfer, but it's so slow and expensive. It doesn't really work for like peer-to-peer transactions. Mm-hmm. And so Ethereum was like, hey, let's have something that kind of like takes Bitcoin, keeps that decentralization, but actually is like reasonable to send like value to people. And so that was like number one. So then Solana was like, yeah, but that's still like too slow and expensive. So let's create something that's like still pretty decentralized, but is like you can actually trade on it. And that was like the third thing. And then Hyperliquid completely changed the game. They're like, you know what? Forget about all those guys and all that stuff like global consensus. Like I'm gonna like create an environment that like is thinking about high performance trading from day one. And so they took all of the validators and they put them all in Tokyo next to Binance, because Binance is where like the price discovery is happening. So that was like the biggest thing. Like, Hyperliquid, I give them credit for a lot of things, but they picked the low hanging fruit of like just that latency. Because like if you're next to Binance, like there's less chance you're gonna get picked off. Like the prices are gonna be updating much faster, and that was like the foundation. Like the first thing they did very different, and they beat me to it. Like that was our idea. Is like, all right, Colo is like accepted as the only way to run trading in centralized. Like let's do
and
this.
in the high frequency world specifically, I think. Did you guys did they? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt there, but did Jump Crypto? How did you guys view that book, Flash Boys? Like in terms of, was that viewed as positive, negative? Like what? I don't know.
Yeah, I think most high frequency firms are pretty secretive, and anything that comes out, and that's not only. I mean, that's a lot to do with if you tip somebody off to like something that's profitable, they're gonna like spend a lot of time. Like there's a story at Jump where someone like in the elevator was like, oh man, we made a killing on this like asset class. It was like oil or something. And there happened to be a guy at a competitor that heard that. And he went back and was like, hey, all right, I want everybody to drop everything they're doing and figure out like what the opportunity is here. And Jump said like 2 weeks later that the opportunity was gone because the competitor came in. So I think there's just a natural, it takes a lot of time to figure out like where the opportunity is and then like optimize for it. So to tip off somebody else, even just to start looking at it is like, it's like they're very guarded about that. So any kind of publicity is kind of bad publicity.
Well, it's a brutal game. It's the game of money. It's as brutal as it gets, right? And it's not like basketball where if a team's running some sick new play, they're doing it publicly against another team and there's video footage of it.
Yeah.
Whatever secret plays a trading firm is running, they're running privately and everyone's like, how the hell are they doing that? So you can't leak that info.
And there's something to be said, even if you think like, hey, we're going to have like 6 months where we're going to like eat before everybody else figures this out. In that 6 months, you're learning, you're earning resources, you're reinvesting. So then like a lot of these firms, like they figured like one thing out, these small trading firms, that they had an advantage for like a year. But they use that to hire the best people. And then they become like this more kind of broader firm that executes on other opportunities. So yeah, even the short-term opportunity in trading can be like kind of a game changer, like when you're starting out.
Well, I think as an individual, it's the same thing as well. Eventually, you end up having like one trade that gives you 500x or whatever the number is, and you're like, well, that just changed my portfolio.
Maybe
like,
I can hire
crazy.
somebody. No.
Yeah, well, maybe hire them, or I can get a nicer place, or whatever the situation may be.
Yeah.
So back to the Fogo side of it, why does that need to exist? Like in terms of I basically Hyperliquid and the perps. My own observation, the main reason that the on-chain stuff needs to exist is primarily by bringing it on-chain. It's unlocking access to specific assets. Would that be the primary driver of having on-chain? Because like you can't trade crypto. Well, you can trade crypto, I guess, in theory, off-chain. Like, but like, because anything's just an order book. It can be on-chain, off-chain, whatever.
Yeah.
What motivates and like makes this a requirement to say, hey, we need to make this on-chain? Why?
So I think it starts with just like a philosophy that, for me, everything that's on-chain and tokenized is better than the current status quo and like decentralized. I'm just not happy with the centralization, the inefficiencies, like all of the stuff in like today's world. If you just look at like banking, for example, or even like trading, it's all like monopolies. And like those monopolies, they're not that motivated to like innovate. You know, like some guy in Asia can't just build like an app on top of the CME that becomes like viral and used by us, but he can do it on a blockchain. So it starts with that. And like, that's why when people are like, why do you need a token? I never ask that question. I'm like, figure out how you can integrate a token, like obviously in a legally compliant way. But like, I feel like if you've decided that decentralized blockchains and tokenization is a better world, if like everything is on it, then, you know, like, let's think about like solutions in that way. Like let's say pre-sales, you know, a lot of these pre-sales are happening like on like off-chain solutions or centralized solutions. And I'm trying to figure out on Fogo, like, why don't we built a blockchain. We have demand for people to, you know, buy our token. Like, let's have this all on chain in a smart contract. Why did we build a blockchain if we're going to like have, you know, some centralized exchange run a pre-sale? And so like, for me, it's like, let's get as much as, if we really believe that this is the future, like, let's get as much on chain as we can. So it starts there. And then the second part is, it's just like centralized exchanges. Like, I'm not happy with them. Like the, you know, listing fees, for example, like look what happened. Like look where Binance got to. Sorry to single out Binance, but I think they've already been singled out. But like, look where they got to in terms of, you know, what they asked for, and look at the reaction. Like, that's not great. Whereas like Trump coin launched completely on chain. It launched on a Friday night, like completely on chain. You know, I don't know what deals were done, but like for me, that's the better scenario where anybody can launch a coin. And if they've got mindshare and people know about it, like you can just go on chain and, you know, buy it. Like, I think it's way more efficient. It eliminates a lot of kind of like, you know, these like backroom deals that are being done to like get listings. And,
disintermediates which is really the ideological backbone that began with Bitcoin, basically, which was like, which launched at the peak of the financial crisis, basically. And you have a bunch of people saying, why the fuck are we trusting these institutions? And theoretically, transparency, I think, is like one of the key underpinnings of why a blockchain, you know, is more valuable. It's an open database versus a closed database is like the simplest way of saying that. And so it sounds like if you share that vision, if you believe that the world will move in that direction, then it's like, okay, well, that's just inherently better.
Yeah.
And if I think about it simply, especially with you sort of laying out, you know, Bitcoin to Ethereum to Solana, right? It's like, it's just the gradual integration of this blockchain technology and the hyper financialization of it, like almost catching up to traditional finance, which is crazy to say because it's such, you know, bigger technology. But with Bitcoin, you couldn't do high frequency trading. Then Ethereum comes along. It's like, it's better for certain use cases, but still not fast enough. Solana comes along. You have to have these mini breakthroughs. Like Ethereum's a breakthrough. Solana's a mini breakthrough. This stuff takes a long time to develop. And now with Hyperliquid, it sounds like from your perspective, that's a mini breakthrough for the more high frequency trading stuff. We still haven't even caught up to TradFi at their highest level. And what will probably happen is eventually over time, the blockchain, the crypto tech will catch up to TradFi and then break through and start doing new stuff. You
Yeah.
know,
Well, we're starting to see that with the stable coins, essentially. Is they're like, oh, there's an opportunity for us to make money here, which is all that the organization literally wants to do. Any of the financial institutions are just like, similar to what you're saying, there's a small guy who, like the small companies come up with that one breakthrough trade that enables them to become an institution, essentially. Like that's like the progression from like small to big, and then the big ones eventually gobble up whatever that the system or the model where they're like, oh, that's an opportunity that actually scales into the billions. We'll just go invest in that as well, and maybe I don't know. But the history of technology, there's a bunch of like blips, which is like
Facebook buying Instagram.
yeah, where it's just like, okay, well, that was a moment in time, and then everyone now social networks are just like. Yeah, well, we don't even call it that anymore. It's just social media, but yeah. So, okay.
And on that note, Robert, you were talking about the different breakthroughs, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, Hyperliquid. Where does Fogo kind of capitalize on what Hyperliquid's done and kind of build off it? Like, what's the advantage of using something like Fogo versus what already exists?
Yeah. So Hyperliquid did a great job with perps. It's actually Hypercore, which is Hyperliquid's perps, and Hyper EVM, which is their blockchain, are two very different things. Different performance, like it's not composable. So what we wanted to do with Fogo was have like a level playing field. So yeah, we're gonna have this ambient perps dex that comes out, and obviously they're a close partner that's been involved in the design of Fogo. Any other app, like Fogo's public, so anybody can build anything and deploy it on Fogo. Any other app will have the same exact access that Ambient has. There's no difference. So it's not enshrined. It's just they're going to be coloed, but it'll be public where the Fogo validators are. So anybody can come in, like another perps dex and another whatever, any kind of dex, and like deploy the same exact way and be on a level playing field. And then there won't be two environments. So it'll be an L1 that's completely composable. So like people can build off these perp dexes, borrow land, whatever. So yeah, there'll be like no second class citizens on Fogo. Everybody will be be on a level playing field to compete.
And on the Hyperliquid side, and specifically the Fogo side, you've been talking a lot recently with these purpose-built L1s, or these purpose-built blockchains in general. You've talked about Zcash, for example. That's a purpose-built L1 for privacy.
Yeah.
And you think, can you talk a little bit more about Fogo, for example? You're like, that's for trading, the blockchain for trading, and that a lot of the existing infrastructure isn't really built for like all these multi-cases, the jack of all trades, where it's like, okay, a blockchain can handle 18 different things, but it doesn't excel at one. Maybe can you talk a little bit more about how you're approaching that with Fogo on the trading side?
Yeah. So everyone says like another L1, another fork. And so I've been talking about Zcash because we kind of share that history. They were a fork of Bitcoin. So the founders looked at Bitcoin and was like, hey, we think privacy is important, but like we're not going to convince like this very decentralized Bitcoin core to like do all these things we need to do to have privacy done the way we want it. And so they forked Bitcoin core and built this new layer 1, Zcash. And now that's like taking off. And at the time they did it, like a lot of people pushed back, like, do we need another L1? This is just a fork. So I'm trying to remind people that like a lot of times this is how innovation happens, because it's very hard in these decentralized environments to like change things, you know, like there's nobody controlling it. That's like decentralization. And so, I mean, we saw with inflation on Solana, like a lot of the core people wanted to fix that, and like they didn't get, you know, consensus from everybody, and like it failed. It's not easy. Like once you decentralize to a point, it's kind of like is what it is. And the only way to get real innovation and achieve like specific goals is to do something completely different from the ground up. And so, yeah, that's what Fogo's doing. Like we, we're looking even at like, there's some things with Hyperliquid that don't agree with. Like there's a speed bump that's just like hundreds of milliseconds. which essentially some of the high frequency firms like won't trade there because their orders go in, there's hundreds of millisecond speed bump, and like they kind of get last looked and like taken out, and it's also closed source. So there's certain things that we think that we can do better, and that goes back to like before you build it, like what are your goals and what are the issues that we see elsewhere, and what were the decisions that were made like when they were building, the design decisions that led to those issues. So, and we're all traders. And I think that's the other difference you're seeing. Like the original like founders of these blockchains were engineers, and they don't like when Ethereum was built, was he thinking about perps? No. Even Solana, like perps weren't even like that, like maybe BitMEX was out, but whereas now like we have the advantage of like traders building and designing to a specific like use case. And everyone's like, well, what does that mean for general purpose chains? And I think like, look, there's still going to be like really good. Like for a phone, like 400 milliseconds is fine, that latency. Like you can't even perceive that. And so I still think that these general purpose chains will serve a good purpose. Like there's going to be people that want the decentralization of Ethereum for whatever reason. Like they just feel more comfortable with their stables there. Like fine. But like if you want to like trade, like we want Fogo to be the place. And like maybe, like when you make profits on Fogo, you move profits out to like a place that you feel safer, like Bitcoin or Ethereum in a stable coin. So that's our vision.
You talk about co-locating and all these other things. In order to do co-location, you're probably of a specific size. The average like trader is not, like the individual trader is not going to set up a server, build infrastructure to go and try and execute trades faster than anybody else.
Yeah.
Are you talking with institutions that benefit from that? Like, is that basically, is that an ongoing, like, I don't know what the market landscape looks like on that side. You were just explaining, wanting to replicate CME on chain. The drive for that, the primary people who are using that are probably institutionalized trading firms, basically.
Yeah, this is actually a great question because I think people confuse colo and think like if you're not colo, do you have a disadvantage? It's actually, and it's unfair to the people who are coloed, but it's actually, it helps the little guy who can't colo, and this is why. If you're optimizing the order fills by having colos, liquidity providers, validators, next to price discovery, whatever, that means for the guy that's just putting an order that says like, I just want, like, mostly you just want to, if you want to buy like a token and you're buying a token once a month or whatever, like you just want to know that you got filled fairly and that you didn't get front run and you didn't get like a shitty order. And we're even going to like, Ambient's even going to have order types that says like, I want to put an order in that has like a certain amount of slippage off the next Oracle price. So it's just like, I don't care what I get filled at. It's just like, I just want to know like whatever next Oracle price, like I'm within some slippage. But like if you're optimized because of colo in those prices, so that becomes like a super optimized place. Like even if it takes you 200 milliseconds for your order to like get there, that like once it gets there, it's going to be like on market and you got filled fairly. And so like it gives an advantage to like even those like kind of benign retail players. Like you just know that your order, like, so like you should be able to like send an order to Ambient and send an order to somewhere else that doesn't have colo and like all those prices are delayed and get a much better fill at Ambient because of this colo optimized environment. And so you're happier. Even it doesn't matter like when you got reported back at your fill, like whatever. If I have to wait like another second, but I got price improvement here, like I'm gonna keep trading here. So that's like a big differentiation, and that's why like colo actually makes it more fair for the individual retail person because they're getting like an optimized fill.
Or go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say is a concept I think that's worth talking about too, that's in line with everything that you've said about, Fogo and Hyperliquid and the progress that's being made on the tech side of crypto for trading, is that like a lot of retail people that are on CT, people that are watching this podcast right now, like on social media, that are like an individual trader or an individual investor, they might not realize the sort of industry side, the high frequency trading firms, and having to build in Japan to be close to Binance, right? And they might think, well, that doesn't really apply to me. But the reality is, organizations are basically building like institution grade tech and institution grade platforms, and that ends up trickling down to some capacity. And the maturation of the industry is going to continue to trend in this direction. And not everything is going to apply to you. I'm not going to start a high frequency trading firm. It's just not something that I'm going to do. But the existence of I think the biggest thing too is open source, like Fogo being open source versus Hyperliquid being closed source. I think that's a really, really big deal. I think open source in general is just a really big deal. So that to me, that's like a progression. So all that stuff, creating opportunity for people to build things on top of these institution grade platforms and products, going in a bunch of different directions, not just the direction Fogo is going into, but other directions too, is just a sign of the maturation of the industry, and it trickles down.
Yeah. And the open source thing is a trust issue. Like I've had people be like, hey, I want to go on this, let's say, platform, but it's closed source and I'm not really sure what's going on, and like I'm not comfortable, so I'm not going to connect. I'd say another thing, like Robinhood figured this out, because they have, the way Robinhood works is they've got this optimized matching engine where people like Citadel are making markets, and they have, people on the app, on the Robinhood app, sending orders and getting really great fills. And it's free. And so I think like, if I think about like what I want, what the experience, like the DEXs that are building on Fogo, the experience that we want to get to. And you should also note, like those high frequency guys, they're all market making. So they're not, you almost don't want them as takers, because they're only going to like trade when they can make money, and you're probably losing money if you're involved in the liquidity provision. So you want to incentivize those big boys, the HFTs, the institutions, to make passive markets that retail can execute on. You don't want them as takers. And that's actually one of the things Hyperliquid does well. And there's a guy in Solana that's actually doing a lot of this in terms of separating flow, like toxic flow from benign flow. And that's actually the next evolution. Is like, how do we get rid of this toxic flow? How do we get good markets? Like, how do we incentivize market makers to connect and then give a better experience to the retail takers?
So in the case of Fogo, how will you jumpstart? Like, I'm just generally curious how someone jumpstarts a market. Like, you have no one sitting there.
I was hoping you were going to answer this. This is why I brought you to Brazil.
And you're welcome. So yeah, we're getting all of the people. But yeah, in the case of like, that's like the service.
Talk about that. I mean, are you guys affiliates for anything? Are you familiar with the affiliate program?
We are for like Gemini Card, for example. Okay. So yeah, we talk about their credit card, which you should use. No,
I ended up in Vegas at a Bybit affiliate party, and this was years ago, and it hit me. And actually, the CEO of Bybit, who's a good friend of mine, Ben, he came from the FX world where this was how business gets done. So essentially, these exchanges, whether they're FX exchanges or even Binance and Bybit, like they don't really view, and this is like me talking from public information, they view their clients as affiliates who get traders. Like that's actually their client. And so they have these affiliate programs, these rock star affiliate people that go out and get traders, and they get paid based on like the certain criteria of like what those traders do, and we haven't seen that on DEXs on blockchains. Like it hasn't happened yet. So without giving too much information, I think some of our DEXs might be kind of the first that adopt that program. And so because to think about, like, that's the hardest thing. I come from an exchange building world, and I see it just takes time to like build the liquidity, and it goes in waves initially, and you get if you don't have the right balance, like you'll see like you'll go too far to the makers, and like you want like this balance. Like actually Jeff from Hyperliquid had a good quote that said like, you want to build an exchange such that nobody's like really happy. Like everybody's a little unhappy. Like that's the right balance you want to strike. And that showed to me like he really knows how to build an exchange, and it is a balancing act. But yeah, like in order to get retention, I think an affiliate program is important. Also incentives. Like I'm all for incentives. Like airlines, credit cards, they all use incentives. Like we shouldn't be shy. Like let's bring that model to blockchains. And there's gonna be like rewards that go to the foundation. And so like if we can like leverage those and make those incentives so people come and know the exact type of behavior we want, and they're gonna be incentivized for that, like let's do it.
And would you say that that's probably what made I remember when the Hype token like went live and there were a bunch of people that were like, holy cow, I just got like a massive airdrop. It's effectively a marketing campaign. And then people are like, oh my God, I should switch to that because I want to participate in the next airdrop that's happening essentially.
Yep.
And we saw that actually happen in the NFT space, right? It went from OpenSea to Blur essentially. And it's debatable whether or not that was a good thing because you're taking pretty much a illiquid market and trying to make it hyperliquid in this.
And maybe something like that is too early for that asset class, right? And that comes into play with this stuff all the time.
Well, I also wonder, like Beanie Babies or something like that. Do they require a like fully liquid high frequency? Like you're not going to high frequency trade Beanie Babies probably.
Pokemon cards, though. Right, which is kind of top of the food chain. I was talking to my friend. We're going off in a different direction, but a friend of mine that's in the card market was talking about Pokemon cards recently, and he said they're above sports cards now. That's the #1 collectibles card asset class. So if you bring in blockchain maturity to an asset class like that with real names that are not scamming and actually like custodying the cards and this, that, and the other thing, I think you can start to see stuff trend in that direction for an asset class like that too.
Yeah. Look, I think what we've learned is people want to bet on buy everything and anything, and blockchains and tokens are the best way to do it,
without question.
And if you can then make it efficient for people to frictionlessly get in and out of stuff on their phone, then that's like the dream. So like for me, it's like whatever demand people have to like trade stuff, like we want to just support it optimally.
Yeah, and if you even dial it back to Warren Buffett, who's literally like 100 years old, like the dude is 100 years old actually, and they asked him if he likes stocks versus real estate, and with him he said no question it was stocks. Then they asked, Charlie Munger had already died at this point, they asked would Charlie say the same thing, and he was like, Charlie did a lot of real estate deals, and Charlie really enjoyed real estate, but I think if you asked him stocks or real estate, he still would have said stocks, because selling a house is just not as easy as pressing a button and liquidating $1 billion worth of stocks in an hour at most.
And then tokens take it to a next level. Like if you start a company and you have all these partners that you want to incentivize and you want to give them equity, like it's hard. Like that takes months of like legal work. And then, all right, then you have this private equity and like, what do you do with it? Where do you sell it? Where do you trade it? Whereas like tokens, it's like, hey, we can sign a SAFT like right away, and like it's going to be traded on Binance, and I can have this like contractual lockup. So I align you. It's a superior product to incentivize people. And like if you believe in that, then everything should be a token, and that's where I'm at.
Superior product because you have more control over the architecture of the structure. Like what would be the primary? Like obviously, well, equity, there are actual like infrastructure issues from like a legal standpoint. Basically, it's like, well, you can only have so many shareholders. If you go to a C corp, then you can actually get more, like unlimited via your stock. It's number of shares. What for you actually makes that a superior product to like a business, basically?
I think about the guy in Vietnam that looks at a company that just IPO'd, so like the equity track, and thinking about how he could like get to that position. Like so he would have to go to Silicon Valley, like get VCs, then go to Goldman Sachs, convince them to IPO, and like maybe like in 5 years that's possible. No, whereas that guy looks at some solution built on Solana that like went viral, like some game, some NFT or whatever, and like he can tomorrow like start. And he can envision like how he can get to that same exact place. He doesn't have to ask permission from anybody in Silicon Valley or anybody at Goldman Sachs. And so that's why I think like tokens, blockchains, permissionless blockchains are superior.
Globally permissionless would be like the main
Yeah.
motivator there, so that there can be someone in any country, any city, any town, anywhere that can participate in that business or brand, or they can be a creator of that essentially, and it levels the playing field as it applies to if they have internet access essentially, then it's like, hey,
Yeah.
you're in the market.
Yeah.
It's the same concept as like, we pay our international vendors like artists and animators and stuff on different blockchains. Some want Tron, some want, Solana, some want different payment methods. But the point is, no matter where they are in the world, they have this online seamless it's essentially a banking experience. It's literally an online bank, and I can just send the money and it's not a pain. And that alone is a huge thing, And if you want to add a layer on that, if you live in a country like Venezuela where the currency is completely screwed, you're just better off holding stable coins or a token through one of these crypto wallets that's not going to get debased or it's not going to be seized by the government. And so if you just take that simple baseline concept, but then extrapolate it towards equity investing in a new network or platform, which obviously like some lady in a village in Africa is probably not laser focused on equity investing. She's focused on having money so she can buy milk the next day, so.
Yeah. And, I'm not like an expert on creator coins and all that's happening in base, so I don't want to like get into it because I don't know much about it. But like at a high level, like I love those kind of models where you have people today like creating like awesome content that gets monetized by these like third parties and they see very little of it. And if these things that are being built like allow this like independent creator to immediately get paid out because their content went viral, and there's some like smart contract terms that say like if your content reaches like these terms, then you automatically get paid this token, and like there's no intermediary there or anything, and like tokens are easy to liquidate. Like that I think is the future. Like all of these things just empower the person that today doesn't have a lot of opportunity, and that's what excites me.
I was going to say, well, yeah, you can create a marketplace pretty much out of anything. And then in the case of Zora, we actually work with them for and are discussing we'll have our own tokens essentially for that content. It is a very interesting model. Maybe we need high frequency trading of our videos, basically, is one of that's been a real problem that we've been dealing with recently, actually, is I'm just like, why is there not enough volume on y'all sold? Like why is it
guys that went to MIT and work at Jump are just discussing Nick's tokens?
Literally it's the video, like the representation, your content is the token, basically.
Well, let's talk about that because I want to learn. So like y'all sold. So that became very popular. Other people like reposted it and got a lot of likes.
Still do, yeah.
Do you benefit from that?
Well,
do you benefit from people making fun of you?
No, yeah. Well, basically,
I mean, do you get like a direct payout?
No. We get nothing.
That's a problem. Like,
no. Well, it is for somebody who's doesn't have any business savvy, but I would say like a celebrity getting a photo of them published by TMZ is a similar situation where basically the celebrity is not getting anything about that, but you see someone like the Kardashians who literally figured out are the most efficient and business savvy creators, content creators, where they're like, oh, I don't give a shit about the in the case of Kim Kardashian, I mean, it was like a porn video ended up there. And I don't know if I'm sure she may have made money off of that, but what she really got was her name, and it progressed to all of their names being known for just being known and being able to exploit the media model as it existed at that point in time, which would have been like TMZ or something, being the predominant celebrity, like culture. Because that wasn't always the case that reality TV, like that's like a modern innovation in media, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
So, but what you're communicating is that they were able to leverage it in spite of the lack of like a technology solution, which Robert's like talking about a technology
like
solution.
what if there was a direct payment for every single like you got on that?
And when you zoom out, not next year, not 5 years, but how, on a long enough timeline, it starts to make sense that there would be like a way to directly have anybody benefit in that way.
Well, and it's actually the most ideal circumstance for the creator, right? Because right now there's an inherent imbalance in terms of our own content creation process where we have this conversation all the time. It's like, we need less partners, not more partners, primarily because it reduces the amount of time that we're spending on business operations that enables us to do what we really want to do, which is just create content.
Yeah.
Like if we could just make funny videos all day and
That get a lot of attention.
and get attention, and didn't need to work with brands. I mean, we respect you and we're like excited about it, but that would be the ideal situation.
Exactly. I want you to do that.
And that actually is, I guess, the dream of what happens. And I think what you're saying, and maybe I haven't fully thought through that, but there were intermediaries before in the creative process, which is Hollywood, which is the music industry, which is all these different things, where they built the infrastructure and institutionalized the thing, became middlemen, distributors essentially of that content to the consumer. And we're able to basically capture the majority of the edge on that, like the majority of the value. They're like basically they built the machine and then extracted from it. Now the internet, which is completely is effectively a decentralized system, would be cool if the creators do like if Zora happens to be the model that cracks that nut. Awesome. It's a weird thing though, because the consumer behavior, I think, is the thing where they view it as like free. Although they pay for Netflix, they pay for all these different things. It's trying to figure out how do you take that to the individual creator, essentially.
And that takes a lot of time, right? It's going to take so long. Just like how if you told me when I was 8 years old that people would watch other people play video games someday, I wouldn't understand. I'd be like, well, why wouldn't you just play the video game yourself? Right. But now we have Twitch and people watch people play video games more than they play them themselves.
Well, because well, yeah. I mean, it's they put a TV in front of monkeys, and monkeys just sit down and they're just like obsessed with the thing. If you show them other monkeys, like it's fascinating to watch. But yeah, I don't know on the market making side of that how that. I have no idea how that's actually going to take place. We've been very effective at being able to monetize that through partnerships, essentially, and so that's what we've done best. And frankly, is the differentiator between us and any random creator is that they just have not figured out how to properly, a lot of them have not figured out how to properly monetize, or you just get so big that just opportunities abound.
Yeah, but in the end, like blockchains and tokens are the better, and no intermediaries like that, like extract all this value when they're not really adding a ton, and it's really like your content's the valuable thing, and there's people that want direct access to that. Like, why do we need these intermediaries that extract all this value?
Well, and X paid me basically nothing for that stuff. But I also simultaneously I'm like, well, how much did they actually make on that content? They make it an aggregate across the ads that you end up seeing on.
But I bet they know that there's somebody there that knows, like, that can tell you for every like or for every view, like this adds up to this many advertising dollars, whatever. Like they know that. They don't want you to,
1,000%. Yeah, they're not going to give you the behind the and now it's a private company, so you can only assume they're profitable. I have but I have no idea. I actually don't know if media. That's actually the bigger problem. Is I don't know if media can be profitable, basically, because there's an incentive around, like, if you look at someone like Jeff Bezos, he doesn't need the Washington Post to be profitable. The guy he just doesn't. As long as that exists and that media and these platforms give you power and influence, it's hard for the individual within that to try it, because they're down to lose money on it because they have a machine that gives them a voice. Yeah. So as long as they have that, I don't know if you actually can, like, as the individual, operate in that space because the marketplace just makes it so you don't have that that ability.
I mean, think about it. I never go to traditional media anymore. Like, I get everything on X.
Same.
I mean, I go to sometimes I'll go to like Drudge Report or like some aggregator. Basically, is what I I always go to aggregators though, and I never go I don't go to CNN or something like that.
Nick's a news guy, so it's a different
really?
story with him. Yeah, he's a news guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
You read the newspaper? In Miami?
I remember when I think Warren Buffett or someone like that did have some commentary where he's like, every morning I sit there and I think like the first 2 hours is him reading all of the newspapers, and that
like
was
the
like
Wall Street Journal.
Yeah, that was like part of the process of how you absorb the knowledge, essentially, to know what's going on in the market. That's how you end up like seeing it.
Yeah.
Obviously, today I don't think anybody is. It's more of just like a status thing to be like, yeah, oh, my neighbor has Wall Street Journal end up in front of their door every morning, and you're like, oh, okay, that's cool.
So it's funny because I was like, look, we're trying to build an L1 and we're busy. I don't want to spend tons of time on X. So I had one of my employees like create a daily X I kind of told them what I'm looking for and who I follow. And so every day in my inbox, I get like a X report of what's going on, the dramas and stuff, and it's good. And it means like I spend 3 minutes to get like what I'd probably have to spend hours scrolling through, and you get like on tangents, and it's good. And so I don't know, this could probably be a solution for people.
Well, we just built that app. Like I literally
really?
spent months building an automated AI funneled version that gives you real-time alerts of what's going on in
really?
the market. Yeah. It does clustering of new to determine what the stories are.
Oh.
There was another guy who's really advanced at AI. He's like a smart AI guy. And I was looking at it, and then I was like, I actually can build this. Like, I think that it's possible. What he would try to do is he would actually try to build the models. Building models are very expensive. Creating a custom. We were discussing this. I was like, every new evolution of open Chat GPT or whatever it is, the minimum cost of a new model is $1 billion that they spend on training.
Yeah.
And that's just like what the cost is now. And I'm assuming they have an incentive to even almost spend more because the better the model is, the more I don't know that anyone's brand loyal at this moment in time. Well, some people are, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You said Chat GPT when you discussed it yesterday. Anyways, long story short, all of these things are becoming more and more available for you to build kind of the workflows to generate that type of thing that you want to.
So I want to ask you a question because after spending a couple of days with you, I'm trying to think like what makes you tick. And like it seems like you're very passionate about like the details of like business models and startups and stuff. And so like, but people know you as like, whatever, making memes and pictures on like X. So how do you like balance the two? Like when
I'm having a constant identity crisis basically, and it frustrates the hell out of Pio basically because I go through both cycles.
But let me ask you this: when you sit down and you're gonna, because like a lot of the serious things, like if I think about like the things even before I knew you, like the things that stuck out of me, like when the DATS stuff were like going down, you're like, what's going on with DATS? And you're on your balcony, like that, like. I was like, yeah, like it really made me think about like DATS. And then even like you were talking about like, why do I need Bank of America? Why do I need to go in here? They're sending me here. And so a lot of those things are the things that like resonate with me, like that content more than like you in front of the yacht and stuff. So when you sit down and you're going to set content, do you think like this is going to be a serious one versus the other one, or is that just your normal?
We're kind of exploring it. There's also a thing of us exploring a collective of us making content, which is one of the balances right now. And then they're like, how do we work together? Because like our content has evolved. Yeah. So like we haven't like if you told us what we're doing right now, I think there was a point in time where we were like, yo, how sick would it be if like people actually just wanted to pay attention to us for us. Whereas before it was like you're delivering a service. You were discussing, for example, the person on your team who's aggregating information and sending it to you. That's the value. You're getting the information delivered to you via the best vehicle. Yeah. But then there's comedians that have podcasts where they're talking about literally anything, and the people are interested in just listening to that person for who that person is. That's like a transition that we're just kind of experiencing and trying to understand at any given moment in time.
So I work with a lot of teams, obviously. Fogo has a bunch of teams. Like we're probably one of the most decentralized projects out there. We like started with like, like Doro Labs is involved, Doug and his team's involved. We have a foundation. And so I love like team dynamics. And your dynamic is interesting because each one of you is like something very different. Like Pio's like the adult in the room that has like the high vision. It's like we gotta do this. And then Clemente's the writer who's like sitting like writing ideas and like when
Pio's a really good writer, actually. I would say.
Okay.
Like,
all right. Well, I'm
Pio does everything. We're the balls.
but then Clemente is quiet until he sees his opportunity. Even like my other team was saying that, like he sees his opening and then like goes for it, whether that's like the dance or like he says something, and then you're the meme.
There's a this is random, but basically in like therapy, they would discuss like family dynamics basically, and what a functional family or the theoretical functional family looks like versus dysfunctional. And dysfunction typically comes from rigid roles. Whereas like a family that has flexibility where another person can step in.
Yeah.
And so like there are defined roles, but even despite the definition of it, in a moment of crisis or whatever happens, someone may like disappear, other people step into that.
Yeah.
And so I think that's like in our dynamic, there isn't really always like a clear definition of what that is. It's just we're just doing, basically.
Yeah, it gels though. It gels.
Yeah, and so I think that's like that's an interesting thing. It's different as a business because like if you view like business versus content creation, you're trying to just figure that out all the time, basically, because it's like, okay, who's on the sales call or who's on the whatever, like.
Yeah.
It's completely changed the entire time. We have like just an evolution, and after looking back and seeing that, I'm like, I don't even know where the thing's gonna be like 12 months from now. Maybe we end up with the Netflix show, but I literally could not tell you what that is.
Yeah.
It's just like you get a team that's in place that seems to be making it work, and the worst thing to do, which has been is trying to control it, having anxiety about it, frustrating about it, because it's just a waste of time. Like it doesn't end up actually helping any of this stuff. And I struggle with that on a regular basis, where like software is something I can control, right? Like that's something that I can be like, okay, I'm making the thing, I know the outcome. That's like we know the shape and the form.
Yeah.
Whereas with content, you don't always know. Like
So, and I'll tell you from like my perspective. So first of all, like personally, I have like no experience with this. Like every place I worked was like, let's make sure we get no attention. It was the opposite.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So personally, like a group like you, like learning from you guys and seeing how you think about things, like, and like, it's just so interesting. Like how do things go viral? Like I have no idea. But then even like our marketing, like we have like people that are really good at content. They're like very close to it. And like, they're very like in the weeds on the details, and then like there's like visions that we're pushing, so we don't have like this external team that doesn't have to like get bogged down by some of that internal shit. They can just think about like, all right, and also have like an outside perspective of what Fogo is. So you're starting with like, all right, we kind of know what these guys are positioned in an unbiased way. We kind of see like maybe where there's gaps that we can fill. And we can just do our thing in terms of knowing how to get attention and like combine it. So like that's super valuable. So like, I could see, I hope like this happens more with like projects that like see the value in like getting a team like really close and like working with you, like talking through things and then like executing. Cause like, yeah, man, it's super valuable. Like we couldn't do this. You kind of can't do this internally.
Yeah, and we're also observing the market because we're also talking with a lot of those people basically, and we see how they work, and we see actually, I remember because I was doing news essentially about Facebook, but at that point, I would always talk with real journalists that were like at actual news organizations, and I'm like, so how are you getting your news story? Like, what exactly? Because I didn't study journalism, and the vendors are actually literally basically the best place and source of information. That's where 90% of it comes from, whether it be a third-party recruiting firm that's going to tell you, what roles are they hiring for, what budgets are they spending, all these other things. Yeah. Whether it's the any sort of outside party is where information is typically coming from, and you can also see as an outsider, you can be like, whoa, that company is a disaster, basically.
Yeah.
Like that was
Yeah.
they were impossible to work with. They've gone so corporate at this point. They're overly like there's too much red tape.
Yeah.
I would not bet on them, basically. Like
No, and the other thing is, it seems like to get a lot of attention, you got to be controversial, and like it's good if we can have a little arm's distance from that. Like, hey, do your thing. And, if you go too far out, we'll just like separate ourselves from you.
Well, that was like, yesterday, like, well, while we're here, we didn't want to like post a bunch of stuff, but so instead I'm trying to like find something that's postable. And a guy went viral the other day making fun of how I look. And my tweet that got, almost 500,000 impressions over the past 24 hours was just making fun of how he looked. And I'm like, so what is the value of that like specific thing? Like, what does that have to do with Fogo blockchain or like?
It doesn't have anything to do with Fogo.
No, it doesn't. But like, even what does it have to do with crypto? It has nothing to do with crypto. It's literally just
social media attention.
Yeah, social media attention. Yeah, which is
Dave Portnoy style.
Yeah,
he gets into beefs like that over absolutely nothing with random people on the reg.
Well, and it's the best way to do it. Yeah, having conflict, confrontations, like people love that. And same with podcasts. If someone gets into a disagreement, a fight on a podcast, people are gonna be like, "Yo, you had to see
this clip."
People think conflict is interesting. If there's this like clip in this movie called Adaptation, where the guy's a screenwriter and he's in a class, and he asks the professor of the class, "Well, what if you write a script that doesn't have any conflict, just like real life?" And the professor's like, "You're gonna write a script that doesn't have any conflict? Well, you're gonna put your audience to sleep, number one."
Yeah.
And then he goes, "Real life doesn't have conflict." He's like, "People die every day," like this and everything.
Yeah.
He just like shits on him, and I'm like, "Yeah, you need conflict. Every movie is a conflict. That's the point, because you need a resolution, or maybe you don't get a resolution, and that's interesting. But people are attracted to conflict, and that's what you gave them with that guy, a little mini zero stakes beef,
Yeah, exactly.
a zero stakes beef that has no consequences.
I'm like, if I meet that guy, like, are we going to beef in person? Like, are we gonna
watch his life's mission now is to find you?
A random guy on the internet basically went viral. He had 7,000 followers, got 8 million impressions by saying this guy is the ugliest mofo around.
Wow.
Turns out that guy
looks funny.
He looks quite weird. And so I was like, oh,
Are you gonna reach out to him?
Kettle Black.
Yeah.
What was
Are you
it?
gonna reach out to him?
No,
he
I mean, I
publicly.
quote tweeted him and just
Yeah,
said,
but reach out to him. Let's get him on. Let's get him on the
the
podcast.
conversation of the century.
He's like, "So I think you look funny, bro." Like,
no, you look funny.
I bet you guys would actually like each other. You
Maybe.
find out you have a ton in
I have
common.
no idea like anything about this guy. Like he
Reach
literally,
out, man.
I
I would watch that one. I would watch that conversation.
well, on
But
that
hold on,
note,
but actually, so yeah, to bring the conflict thing back. When you start like a new blockchain, you got to think about like, all right, is this going to be like contentious to something out there? And like, the reality is like, it would be great if you can just be positive. Hey, Fogo is great because of this.
Yeah.
And like, you're getting a lot of attention in that, but you don't. When you're innovating, it's naturally contentious with the status quo. Like if you think about like Jeff Bezos and Amazon, like that's naturally contentious with Sears, like their model of like, come to our store, it's a great experience. They're like, no, like I think it's better to be at home and just like click on something and not have to leave your house. Like that's a naturally contentious vision to like the status quo. And the same thing with us. Like we're naturally contentious. Hey, we don't think like the status quo is like good enough. Like we think we can do better for like a specific thing. And you have to like say that and like this is what we think is broken and this is how we're fixing it, and then that becomes contentious because there's all kinds of maxis that have a lot at stake with what you're saying is broken, and now you're in this contentious thing, and like you got to be comfortable with that. Like I learned, like at first I was like now I'm like this is like they did the same thing, like they were contentious with somebody else, and like. This is just how innovation works. And like, this is often the best time to differentiate yourself with people who are like, why is Fogo different? Like if I just say it, like it's great because of this, it's one thing. If I'm like battling with somebody and they're like, what Rob's saying is kind of resonating. Like, and he's like willing to get in there and like fight for his vision. So yeah, I would say like for founders, like get comfortable with conflict because like if you're innovating, that's just the nature of the beast.
You're disrupting. And
Yeah.
you know, the thing I think is cool that
Bro, you're disrupting my life. Like, no, I'm kidding.
Robert starts calling founders ugly.
So what'd you learn from the Bodoggos guys?
Well, I started shitting on other CEOs, and it's been going absolutely
followers.
phenomenally well.
10x.
Followers through the roof.
well, yeah, I mean, we've been going for what, like an hour?
Longer than an hour and a half, I think, maybe. But yeah, is there anything else that we would need to?
Yeah, I want to talk about your dance strategy. All right, so Clemente. So it's clear when you dance and it goes viral, it's bad for the market. How do we change these vibes? Because you're in Brazil. There's a lot of ceremonies we can do to kind of reset your energy. Is there something we can work on while you're here?
I just want to say there was a moment in the process of his gritty when the creation of that. I remember we were at Easy's house. He had already started grittying, but we were trading meme coins, and in private, he would literally start doing the dance.
Yeah.
And I was so pissed. I was like, I bought a token, and I was like, do not do the gritty, basically. I was like, dude, I will kill you if you do the gritty, because with 100% certainty, the token was going to dump if he did it. And I was like, I don't know what the hell is going on in the universe, but it is going to happen. Do not do that thing. And it's funny to see the entire internet coalesce around being like, dude, do not do the dance. Like,
So what are you thinking? You're just gonna keep dancing?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I have
come on.
to.
You're killing us.
Well, that was part of what was so good about the Fogo Fest that we did, where it was like,
it literally was a top signal, though, also. Yeah.
but relating it to that, because it's not just dancing, it's like whenever the dance happens, something else is attached to it, and I think that's part of the reason why it like was kind of this viral moment. It was just this like, and we workshopped that on purpose. It was like, if it was just like look at Clemente dance, it's a different thing versus Nick being like, the ultimate Clemente top signal just dropped, and people were mad at it. People were like, this thing needs to get shut down. I hate this guy. Like, I had to open up shorts now because of him. Like, screw you.
So look, let's do. You should do a new dance on like a bullish dance on the yacht today.
We're gonna
to a
workshop
Brazilian
one.
music.
I mean, I don't know.
Let's try
Bitcoin's
to
at
change
100K. I wanted to stay there, basically. I'm like,
Can
we
it go
break
much
for it?
further? The problem is you gotta dance at like the lowest moments.
I've
then
done
we can-
those, and it hasn't worked. I did
really?
a ceremonial.
All right, one more. Well, let's give it one more chance.
All right,
That song I sent you, the Brazilian song.
Yeah.
I think that's the one.
Clemente will take any opportunity to do the dance because he fears no consequence of it. Whereas I'm like, yo, my portfolio is actually getting wrecked. I'm down hundreds of thousands of dollars right now.
Yeah.
Stop doing the dance, basically. Like,
Yeah.
which I think it is awesome. It gives people an opportunity to feel something, basically, which I think is the ultimate content, which is why you mentioned talking points of Fogo, which is an internal marketing team, essentially. That's what they have to do. That's literally like the job of the internal marketing team is figure out those talking points. But it's very difficult to orchestrate something that makes people feel a certain way, and that's what creators do. That's what all creators do, from filmmakers, and it's about the emotion that the person's getting out of that thing, which is just completely different than most ads. And so, it's,
I had a couple other like sound bites I wanted to maybe get in.
Sure.
So yeah, we're on the verge of a launch. Figuring out that like there's a ton that goes into an L1, and like given the team has been through it all, like we've been through a number of token launches. We've seen a number of token launches from being market makers. Like I just feel like we have the right team because like everything that comes up, we're like, all right. Well, we saw when that other project decided to do this, how that worked out. So let's not go down that route. And like, I wouldn't wish like building an L1 for somebody that doesn't have that experience. Cause like, there's even a couple things where I'm like, you know what, this could come back to kind of bite us like in the future. But like, I think we've done, the best we can. So, if you're looking to launch an L1 cause you want that L1 premium, I'd say like, unless you have lots of experience and you want to give up your life for a couple of years and ruin a lot of your, relationships because you're working so much, maybe think twice. Maybe like launch a DEX first, or I don't know, like an NFT, like see how that goes. Because it's a lot of work, but like I'm really confident. Like we have the team, like between Doro, between Doug Colkit, now the foundation. We got like a team that I really feel like is making the right decisions, and we're gonna know the results of those decisions soon enough. So we'll see.
Well, this is a technical question. What if someone wants to build on Fogo? What language is that like, or is it just an RPC?
So it's actually completely Solana compatible, and it's on Frankendancer. So if you built on Solana and it works on Solana, you're just pointing to another RPC. I would say the resources we have for like builders right now is pretty light, because while we like a new L1's gonna have growing pains.
Yeah.
And while we go through these growing pains, like we want to have like a couple low stakes games, like nothing like day one. We don't want to launch like a new L1, the most performant L1 ever, and a new leveraged perps dex with like meme coins. Probably more like phases where we launch the L1, low stakes game. People can we can work through our growing pains, and then like once we get comfortable with that, like other kind of higher stakes value type solutions come on. But yeah, completely Solana compatible. It's just gonna work 10 times faster than it does there. So that's a value proposition.
Thanks for taking the time and walking us through both your history, having also just a conversation. Honestly, like this has been great.
Yeah. And guys, thanks for coming down here. So I invited you down to Brazil while there was a literal war going on in Rio. I'm sure you saw the news.
Yeah.
And there's a couple connections, and like it's not easy to get here. So yeah, I appreciate all your support, like coming down here, and hopefully we can do it again, maybe a little bit bigger next time.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, let's keep getting after it.
100%.
For sure.